Hello, and welcome to my ranking of the anime I've seen this year. This is a video I've never done before, and hopefully, we're going to have some fun with it. I have 6 series that I finished and 2 honorable mentions. I am not going to include One Piece because that's been running all year. However, One Piece would be very, very high on this list due to just how incredible Onigashima has been, and Gear 5 was portrayed excellently. I also did not watch every single episode that came out this year. Okay, so the main list only consists of series that I finished. So there are some series I have not finished: Mashal, Blue Eye Samurai, uh, other ones. I've started a couple. I'm not too much of an anime guy. I prefer manga. But here I have 2 honorable mentions, and this first one, I don't even know if this counts, but I want to give it to the One Piece anime live action. One Piece live action. This honestly turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I went into this with my expectations in the garbage can below the bar, far below the bar, any bar. I was expecting this to be a mosh posh of horribleness that I would just laugh at. And after the first episode, I thought it was pretty good. And after the second episode, I was pretty impressed. Personally, I'm not a big fan of how they handled Sanji and Baratie, or a lot of the Arlong Park content, and especially how the season kind of ended. But I feel like considering past one or anime live actions, this was pretty good, and I'm actually excited to see a second season. Now, the second honorable mention I want to give is the Rurouni Kenshin anime. This I have not finished. I think I'm like 19 or 20 episodes in. Honestly, I just got busy. I gotta finish it. I love Kenshin. I think this anime is doing wonders. It is adapting things incredibly well. It's adding nice little hints to future stuff. It looks beautiful. And from what I hear, I think we actually get to see Shishio at the end of this season. And that is very exciting. I love Shishio. Shishio versus Kenshin is one of my favorite fights in all of manga. I They'll probably get to it in season 2 actually, and that's probably going to make anime fight of the year for me. Honestly, I love the Kenshin anime. It would be pretty high on this list actually, if I'd actually finished it in 2023. So, number 6, rounding off the bottom. I don't think any of these were bad. Actually, of all the anime I've seen this year, I don't think any were bad. Number 6 is Demon Slayer season 3. I don't think Demon Slayer is a bad story. I don't think it's carried by animation necessarily. But this arc was really boring. I There were some episodes I just wanted to skip it. Now it looked beautiful, don't get me wrong. And that final episode had some really stellar animation, and I like getting to see Genya. I think that's his name. I might be totally wrong. This guy with the shotgun. I think he's awesome. His older brother is one of my favorite characters in the series. And overall, I liked season 3, but just that specific arc of the story is not that great, so I didn't have a whole lot of enjoyment when watching the anime. Number 5, this is an anime that I wanted to succeed, and I was very excited because the first couple episodes did a lot, and then it fell really hard. And that is Tokyo Revengers Season 3. The first episode was great. We changed things about Kakacho's dialogue. We actually had Takemichi fight Kakacho. I thought this is great. The second episode, we had Takemichi go to the church. That was great. And then we just kind of continued this trend. We moved around the Emma flashback to somewhere brand new with actually the episode where she dies. That was great. And the whole animation actually of, I believe, episode two. Yeah, it was episode two. With Taiju versus Toman, and then Kisaki, Kakucho, and Izana killing Takemichi and Naoto. I thought, this is great. I'm so excited for this season. We are on a great track. We are providing a product that is superseding the manga. Then we get to the Kato incident with the big fight with Tenjiku. The first episode was, it was um not a big fan of the animation there. Uh and I thought, okay, it's a bad episode. It'll get better. Well, not really. I feel like so much care was given to the first part of the season. The second half of the season just lacked. Um, and I did, of the scenes in the second half of the season, I did really like Kakucho versus Takemichi. I thought the piano theme over it was really good and it added a lot to the fight. And I liked that fight actually quite a lot between Kakucho and Takemichi, both of their fights in the manga, to be honest. But the Tenjiku battle was something I've thought about for technically years, like two, and I was so excited to see it animated. But like it, I don't know, just kind of fell. I wasn't too big a fan of the fights with the big four members. The Haitani brothers fight was all right, but I thought, surely they're putting all of their budget into Mikey versus Izana. This is my favorite fight in the series. It's a pretty good fight. And it didn't succeed at all. It really didn't look that great. A lot of the artwork was just off and sloppy. The animation was not great. And some of it not even fluent, just shaking images. And I thought, this is a disaster. I genuinely was upset when I watched it because I'd been looking forward to this fight for a long time. And then the actual scene of Izana dying, I like that in the flashback we get more Kakacho. We get more Kakacho in Izana's flashback during the fight when they're kids, and then more of Kakacho in the flashback around the time Izana is dying and confronting Shinichiro. I like that inclusion, but that doesn't save it. I mean, well, his death actually. The artwork during his death was really great. When the snow was falling, some of those images looked beautiful, and I really liked that. But then all of the stuff with Kisaki was not that great. I wasn't a huge fan of how Kisaki versus Takemichi was handled. And honestly, the whole reveal of Kisaki's motivation was just not good. I don't like it at all. Not at all. I do think this was probably the lowest point of Tokyo Revengers, and that's part of the reason why this is down so low is because I think that tail end of the Tenjiku arc around chapter 180, 182, around there, dude, no, it's just not for me. The final arc, then, even season four it's okay. There's elements I like, but I do think that after Izana's death, the series does kind of go downhill a little bit. And of course, nothing was going to change that, but I thought for sure they would have handled the Izana stuff a lot better, and they didn't. And that did gravely disappoint me. That being said, what they did include and what they did get right, I did like a lot. And that is why Tokyo Revengers is over Demon Slayer. because there really wasn't a whole lot about I liked about Demon Slayer. Number 4, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. Personally, I am not that big of a Jujutsu Kaisen fan. It's pretty low on my list of series I've read. I don't reread it hardly ever. I'm really only reading the manga right now, week to week, just because I've been with the series. I've read this much, I might as well finish it. That being said, season 2 had some really great points of animation. Yuji versus Choso, Sukuna versus Maharaga, even Toji versus Dagon. Uh, and Yuji and Toto versus Mahito. These were really good fights. These were fights that had a smile on my face. I was excited to see. It was fun. While JJK narratively, I don't like it that much. This season was fun. I had a lot of fun with it. Even I love Toji. Toji's my man. The hidden inventory flashback with Toji versus Gojo, and then Toji versus Geto, and the whole stuff with Riko Amanai, I think that's her name. That was all really fun. I especially love when Riko gets shot and this amazing theme music they're playing just goes dead. That was great. I really had fun with season 2. But there's just things I don't like about JJK. I don't like how Nobara's death was handled, and I hate the choice of Yuji not killing Mahito and having Geto do it. That is probably my biggest gripe with the entire series. That being said, the Disaster Curse fights were fun. I think Maharaga was a spectacle to see, and Yuji versus Choso, I didn't think it would be given the attention that it did, and I'm glad that it did. That was a phenomenal episode, probably my favorite episode of the season. But there's just elements to the series I struggle to like, and that's why it's number 4. I did have a lot of fun with season 2 though. Number 3 is Hell's Paradise. This anime is actually the only series on this list, and I think the only anime I've seen this year that was brand new, completely brand new for me. I had not previously consumed the manga at all. All I'd heard was Hell's Paradise is good. Hell's Paradise is pretty good. And I thought, okay, well, I'll watch it. Click up episode 1, and by the end of it, I was invested. I liked Gabimaru. I liked Sagiri. I liked the premise. I liked the location. I liked the aesthetic. Episode 1 hooked me. I was all here for it. And as the season kept going, I loved the intrigue, the mystery, the characters, the condensed cast, and we focus on a minimal amount of characters developing them. That was great. The island. There was just so much to like. I was week to week character deaths. Oh man, Tenza, that was crazy. The inclusion, I forget their name. The main antagonists of the series showing up. I loved it all. Hell's Paradise Season 1 was phenomenal. The whole conclusion with Shion fighting. I forget his name. I really haven't consumed a lot of content since I read the manga. But after Season 1 ended, I thought, this is phenomenal. And I went and I searched up the manga and I read the entire rest of the manga for Hell's Paradise in one sitting in one day. And it was great. I'm not going to talk about the manga a whole lot here, or at all, actually. But Hell's Paradise was fantastic. It's one of my favorite series I've consumed this year. One of my favorite new series, one of my favorite new gens. Hell's Paradise is something that I almost wish I discovered sooner. It's wonderful. I love Gabimaru. I love Sagiri and Aza. Those are probably my three favorites. I like the power system. I like the antagonists. I like the whole premise. And tying into the manga, one thing I like is that where we're at in chapter one, what the series is in chapter one, is exactly what the series is in the final chapter. It does not feel like a dramatic shift with pretty much anything. Hell's Paradise was just great. Now, number two, this is a series that I've been following from day one, episode one, in my living room back when I was a little kid. And it was a sight to see to finally see it end. And that is Attack on Titan. Both the first part and the second part of the third part of the final season that was split into parts. It's ridiculous, I know. But I think they really handled the end of the manga quite well. Personally, I don't like how Attack on Titan ended. There's a variety of elements that I dislike. There's a variety of things about the final two volumes that I would change. However, that being said, I have warmed up to the ending a little bit with the anime, as opposed to when the manga ended. I think the entire founding Titan fight was handled really well. And while I do have some criticism of the CGI in the first two parts, whatever, of season 4, I think the CGI here looked fantastic. The Reiner fight parts were great. The Annie fight parts were fantastic. Levi and Mikasa, I loved how spectacularly animated it was. And then getting Eren versus Armin, Levi's final scene, it genuinely was amazing. And it was a little bit heart wrenching to see this part of my childhood and this part of my life and this series I've been connected with for so long come to an end for a second time, a little more properly this time, you could say. I like the inclusions, the new inclusions in the conversation between Eren and Armin. And Attack on Titan will always be one of my favorites, despite its shortcomings in the conclusion. Now, my number one pick, and what is anime of the year for me personally, is Bleach Core 2. I love Bleach. I thought Core 1 was fantastic, and I think Core 2 is actually a step up from Core 1, especially in terms of its new content. There's so much I can say here, but I think from opening episode, especially to the final episode of Core 2, I was happy, I was laughing and smiling, and I think it was wonderfully handled week to week. Especially some standout episodes for me were Hitsugaya versus Kangdu. That entire fight and the Soifan versus BG9 fight were portrayed a lot better than I thought they would be. Renji versus Masked Masculine was a ton of fun, and while I'm not a Renji fan, I think he was really well animated, and his new Bankai was pretty cool to see. Rukia versus Asnot is, I would say, probably my favorite episode of the Thousand Year Blood War anime, hand in hand next to the conclusion of the first invasion with Ichigo versus Yhwach. And then moving into Kenpachi versus Gremmy, it wasn't handled as well as I would have liked, but I still think it was handled really well. Not quite as good as the Rukia episode. The Rukia versus Asnot fight was just really good. But we then, after the Kenpachi fight, get Ichigo's return. Wasn't quite as good as I was hoping it'd be, but I still think it was great. A new fight with the Bambis, Ichigo displaying his new Shikai and all of these new ability for the Femritters. And then We get 24, 25, and 26, I believe. I might be wrong on those numbers. The Zero Division battles. Oh man, this was so good. The Zero Division is obviously in a group that sucked. They got mollywopped and trashed and drugged through the mud in the manga. And for how much they were hyped up, they disappointed to a really high degree. But these episodes saved them. The new fights were great. Oh man, and then the Schutzstaffel versus the Zero Division, the proper fights here was something fantastic. It was almost fan fiction. I was smiling, I was giddy, I was excited. I was having a great time. And Ichibei versus Yuha was also handled pretty well. Not as well as the new Zero Division fights, I think, but we still have the fight in the manga, so it is what it is. It was great. Oetsu versus Askin, and then new stuff with Yugram and Uryu. All of this was capped off by Senjumaru getting a brand new Bankai we've never seen before. A Zero Division member Bankai. That was an insane way to end off the core. Now, the core should have ended with Yuha and the Almighty, and it didn't, and that is a bit of a bummer. I am bummed out about that. Um, but I do think we're ending off the core in, I would say, still a pretty good place because we have Ichibei really getting the upper hand on Yuha and sending him down off the royal palace, and then Senjumaru just absolutely washing all of the Schutzstaffel. And it does seem like we're going to get Uryu versus Senjumaru in Core 3, which is very exciting, and I am very excited for Core 3. But overall, I would say Core 2 had everything I wanted. Incredible animation for most of it, stellar points, the new content, even stuff like how Yuha got a hold of Pernida. That was new and that was great. I loved it. Core 2 had me there. Hook, line, and sinker. I had a blast with it. Now, overall, this is just my subjective opinion. This is based on a lot of things. This list consists of my enjoyment of the series narrative, animation, all stuff like that. My list is not going to be the same as a lot of other people, and I think some people might be upset with how low Demon Slayer and JJK are. I'm just not the biggest fan of those series. Now, that being said, I loved the anime that came out this year, and I think we had some wonderful adaptations. And that's going to be all from me today. Bye, guys.